All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BettingPros Conference Championship Saturday live stream brought to you by BetMGM, where you can get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 with the promo code BettingPros at first deposit. He's Fitz. I'm Freedman and Pat Fitzmaurice and Matthew Freedman here to highlight our favorite NFL bets for the third weekend of NFL playoff football. If you've got questions, drop them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them. Fitz, two great games on the slate, tight spreads for both of them. Any of these four teams feel like they could be a worthy Super Bowl winner. I don't think the question is whether we see two good games this weekend. I think the question is whether we make some money while we are watching those games. And last weekend was pretty good to us. Fitz, how are you feeling about this weekend?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. Pretty good. I think there's some spots to take advantage of, but neither of these games is a slam dunk, and we see that reflected in the look-aheads for what the Super Bowl odds would be with any of the various four matchups, and they are all under 2 points for the possible Super Bowl look-ahead. So these are four evenly matched teams. Hopefully we see two really good games on Sunday.
Yeah, being the go-getter that I am, I've projected out the Super Bowl, all four potential Super Bowl matchups. All of them I have within 1.5 points, like this. I think this is going to be a tight Super Bowl, whoever is in that game. So that should be good. But let's get into it. We've got just two games on slate. So each of us is going to highlight our favorite bets. So just one favorite bet for you, one favorite bet for me, whether it's side, total, money line, and then we'll hit on all of the other ancillary bets that we like. And Fitz, we've been talking about this all week. This Chiefs spread, this was a weird line from the very beginning. And here we are still Chiefs -1.5, hosting the Bengals. You're on this, of course, -1.5 at BetMGM, -1.5 across most of the market. It actually did bump earlier today to -2.5 at PointsBet, and then got bet down to 2, where it is at PointsBet. But 1.5 everywhere else across the market. Fitz, you like the Chiefs here. I like the Chiefs. Talk to me about the Chiefs.
So I do like the Chiefs, Freedman, and I like them even if you are only, jumping on these bets now at 1.5. I do think there's value there. I've got this projected as Chiefs by 3. I got it earlier in the week Bengals were favored by 1.5 a couple days ago. I think that would have been Tuesday. I actually grabbed the Chiefs on the money line and got them at +120.
So what a hero you are.
It's no slam dunk. I mean, obviously we have to worry about the Patrick Mahomes thing and what sort of restrictions are going to be placed on his game and his ability to make plays off script, outside the pocket, which is one of the big things that Patrick Mahomes does. But, I talked to the Fantasy Pros injury expert, Dr. Deepak Chona, earlier in the week, and he doesn't think there's going to be a lot of a great deal of limitations on Mahomes. He's kind of concerned about, top end speed, his ability to change direction, but he doesn't think it's really going to affect Mahomes moving around in the pocket as far as, just the sort of quick moves he might need to make to avoid the oncoming pass rush. I'm optimistic that that's not going to be a big deal. And people seem to be weighing that heavily, and they are not at all weighing, Freedman, the injuries that the Bengals have on their offensive line. And maybe that is a result of that offensive line playing really well against the Bills last week in Buffalo. I mean, they played their tails off in that game and really kind of bullied around the Bills defensive front seven. But the Bills pass rush is not as good as the Chiefs pass rush. And the Bills pass rush hasn't been all that effective ever since they lost Von Miller. Gregory Rousseau is a good pass rusher, but not really a marquee pass rusher. And I think he was playing a little banged up last week. So it was a little easier for the Bengals to keep Burrow clean in the pocket. The Chiefs do have a marquee pass rusher with Chris Jones. They have 55 sacks this season, which is second only to the Eagles. They've got Steve Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator, who is going to dial up some blitzes against this injury-depleted offensive line. So I think that's going to be the test for Burrow. It's not going to go as smoothly, I think, as last week went. And maybe they're going to have some success running the ball. I think they will endeavor to have a balance of run and pass to try to make things a little easier for that line and for Burrow. But I think that's kind of a big deal here, and people don't seem to be talking about it that much, and it's certainly not really reflected in this point spread. I think it's probably worth a couple of points, and the market doesn't seem to think so.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Like you, I have this as my favorite bet. Wherever you grabbed it, I bet it early in the week at Chiefs -1. Mistake, obviously. I bet it too soon. I'll talk about that in a little bit. You were much sharper in betting it. Chiefs +1.5. At one point it reached Chiefs +2.5. But even if you're betting it now at Chiefs -1.5. I still think there's value in that number. I have this at Chiefs -3.5. And so, Fitz, you're on the Chiefs. I'm on the Chiefs. So are the official Betting Pros projections, which you can get with the premium subscription. And you have a shot to win a free upgrade to the Betting Pros Premium if you subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel and comment below on this video. If you don't want to wait for the giveaway, you can upgrade today at bettingpros.com/upgrade so you can access our projections and tools. And Fitz, by the way, I want to give a shout out to everyone working on the Betting Pros team. Now we're approaching the end of the season. This year we had game projections on college football from Thor. He crushed with that. We had our NFL projections. Those were good for March Madness. We're going to have game projections for spreads and totals, maybe NBA after that. And we are continuing to build out our suite of premium tools. We already have the prop bet analyzer, which for my money is the best prop tool in the market. Like that's how I got started in sports betting, coming from fantasy, looking at players and betting on player props. So I care a lot about the quality of our prop tools, and the prop bet analyzer that we have is fantastic. And I'd also say our player projections that power the tools, those are also really strong. And with the premium sub, we're starting to build out our premium content. Thor had a lot of premium college football content this year. This week, I published an in-depth premium strategy guide for how I'm betting the conference championships. I think we already offer a lot with the premium subscription, and we're only going to offer more as we progress throughout the year. So now is a great time to subscribe, lock in the low rate. And of course, you can try to win a premium sub for free by subscribing to the YouTube channel and commenting on the video. Okay. Earlier today, this line I mentioned earlier moved to 2.5 at PointsBet, where it did meet some resistance and it moved back to 2. So we might not see any more movement. Maybe we see a little more movement, but I think 1.5, 2 is where the market is ultimately going to settle here. And Pinnacle, which is a sharp book, still has this number at -1. So like that is notable. That's something, that we should keep in mind. But the early week line movement, I want to talk just a little bit about that because it was weird. And there could be a number of different things going on with that line. On Sunday, it opened at 3, Chiefs -3, very quickly got bet to -1.5. On Monday, it flipped to where Bengals were favored by 1. By late afternoon, it was Bengals 1.5. On Tuesday, it was Bengals 2 and then 2.5. And, all of this happened after we saw Patrick Mahomes leave the divisional round and then return and play the entirety of the second half of the divisional round. And all of that happened after Andy Reid said on Monday that Mahomes was going to play in the conference championship. So this felt like weird line movement that was going against what we had seen in the divisional round. And, Fitz, you talked about Cincinnati and Buffalo last week. That line opened as Buffalo -3.5 and got bet all the way to -6. Like there was strong market sentiment for Buffalo last week. And so it's kind of unthinkable for Buffalo last week at home to be favored by 6 against Cincinnati. And then this week, the Chiefs at home on Tuesday to be giving 2.5 points to Cincinnati, right? Like that's just a wide market discrepancy in the period of 1 week. Like that didn't make any sense. And, so a couple of things that I think were going on there. First, there was just, I think someone was making a bad bet that Mahomes would be out or be limited this week. I think that's one thing that was definitely baked into the line. Like you can't get from Bengals 6-point underdogs against the Bills to Bengals 2.5 point favorites against the Chiefs without a strong part of that being Patrick Mahomes is out or Patrick Mahomes is severely limited. So I think someone with a lot of money was making a bet that Mahomes was out. And it just obviously at this point looks like a bad bet. The second thing is that I think the market massively underestimated the Bengals last week in the divisional round. And as a result of that is kind of overreacting to the Bengals this week and moving the line more than it probably should be moved. The third thing that could be going on is just the Bengals head-to-head success against the Chiefs. I think that has helped inflate the line. Within the 2022 calendar year, 3 times the Bengals played the Chiefs. And then now we're getting the fourth matchup within 13 months. But in all of those games, the Bengals won, even though they were underdogs. And so I could see how some, not people who would move the market, but a portion of the market would look at something about the particular matchup, the way that Burrow has performed against this Chiefs defense and think, okay, the Bengals just have the Chiefs number. Even if the Chiefs are quote unquote the better team, the Bengals for some reason match up really well against them. And so I could see how that could help move the line by a point to 2 points more than it should towards the Bengals. And then the big thing is that I think there was some market manipulation happening here. This is the big thing. I think that there are some books, not books. There are some sharp sports betting groups, syndicates, if you will, that occasionally, it doesn't happen every week, but occasionally when there's a spot they want to get really heavy on, they will move the market in one direction early in the week. And then when the limits are low, and then later in the week, when the limits are higher, they come in and they hammer the side at better odds that they wanted to be on. And I think that's what happened here. Or there's a chance that that is at least part of what we saw early in the week. Once this got to 2.5, Right Angle Sports, they put out a release saying that they were betting the Chiefs at plus 2.5. The market started to move progressively ever since then. So I think that is part of what has happened. But I mean, kind of regardless of all of the early week market movement, this is where we are, Chiefs minus 1.5. And I still think there's value there. Patrick Mahomes practiced all week. He practiced fully all week, and he wasn't even listed on the final injury report. Now, if I saw that, I wouldn't be discounting the quarterback at all. But I have still within my power ratings, the short-term power ratings, made some adjustments for this game. But I mean, I got to say, Mahomes practicing fully all week, that is a massive boost to where I would have been if he had been limited or out. I was expecting him to be out Wednesday, Thursday, maybe limited practice on Friday, full practice all week. I honestly think he's going to be pretty Patrick Mahomesian in what we see out there. And that's just the Chiefs offense. The Chiefs defense, Fitz, you hit on it. I think they're going to be able to exploit this matchup against an injured offensive line in a way that the Bills weren't able to exploit it last week. The Chiefs number 3 in adjusted sack rate this year. You mentioned it. It's not just Chris Jones on the interior, although having a guy on the interior of your defensive line who can disrupt, that is worth a lot. But then they also have him flanked with Frank Clark, George Karlaftis, and Carlos Dunlap. Like, they can rotate in edge rushers and be able to apply pressure. So, again, I have this at minus 3.5. I have a ton of respect for the Bengals and Joe Burrow. Burrow on the road, one of the best road quarterbacks that we've seen over the past 20 years against the spread, 18-7 against the spread on the road. That's including the playoffs and, that fantastic postseason run we saw out of Burrow last year. I think the market has been too low on Burrow and the Bengals for the past year and a half. Since the Week 10 bye in 2021, Burrow is 22-7 against the spread. So, I have a ton of respect for the Bengals, but in this one spot, I think the market is too high on them. So I'm, it could be famous last words, but I am on the Chiefs at minus 1.5. This just feels like a number that the market got wrong, primarily because of an overreaction to the Patrick Mahomes injury and an overreaction to what we saw last week out of the Bengals. I think this is where their run ends. Fitz, I know I talked for a long time there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you we talked about well, you brought it up early in the week on our look ahead show with Joe Pisapia about the possibility of maybe some manipulation here by betting syndicates. And you brought it up when the Bengals were actually favored in this one. And you thought it might go up as high as like Chiefs -2.5 or 3. And, we haven't seen it get quite that high yet, but it did indeed swing back towards the Chiefs. So I found that theory totally plausible. And I also do think that maybe, even though the Bengals have had this marvelous late season run, they weren't always getting their respect in the betting markets. And maybe last week, they slew the dragon. They slayed the dragon in Buffalo. And I feel like that was sort of the tipping point as far as the respect for the Bengals, the due respect finally arriving. So, yeah, I got to ask Freedman. Well, first of all, I want to know where you stand on the total. But before that, for as much as you and I have talked about wagering over the last calendar year or so, many hours both on these shows and privately, I don't know where you stand about if you think it matters as far as something like the Chiefs hearing Eli Apple and other members of the Bengals refer to Arrowhead Stadium as Burrowhead Stadium because of the good fortune Joe Burrow's had there recently. Like, do you think that matters at all?
Yeah, I mean, it probably does matter in some way, but I can't quantify how it matters. And if it did matter, like, it probably doesn't matter more than like a quarter of a point. You know what I mean? Like, it would be some sort of manual adjustment that I would make in the model, but I wouldn't weight it really all that much. Like, what incentive do these guys need? Like, they're playing for the right to go into the Super Bowl. Like, they are fully incentivized. I don't think any trash talk is going to change the calculus of this at all. And you add in the fact that, like, even if there were Bengals players who weren't talking some trash, like, the Chiefs have lost to them 3 times in the past 13 months. Like, they already have as much incentive as they need, like, I don't factor it in at all, but that doesn't mean that, like, the trash talk doesn't have some sort of significance. I think it would just be really hard to quantify what that actually is. Fitz, you asked about the total. So yeah, when we talked on Wednesday with Joe, this number was 47 because of the Mahomes skepticism in the market. And I mentioned then that this number would be way off if Mahomes were healthy and active. The Bengals and Chiefs in week 13 when they played, they combined for 51 points. Their total was 53.5 points. And in their 2 games last year, they combined for 65 points and 51 points. The number is 48 right now. I think that's too low. I haven't bet it because I'm getting my Mahomes investment via the spread. But I think you could bet the over here, especially like if you're putting it in a same game parlay with the Chiefs spread or Chiefs money line. I think that would probably be the way that I would approach it. I know that you, I think earlier in the week, bet the over because you were going full Mahomes. What do you think about the total here?
Yeah, I think I am a little concerned, obviously, about the Bengals offensive line and whether that maybe limits their ability to potentially put up a big number and make this the sort of shootout that it could be. But I do think there is still a little bit of value in the over, given that, what did we say it was the last time these two teams met? 53.5.
53.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So seeing it at, 48.5, I think there's maybe like half a point of value here.
Yeah. I haven't bet it. I'm probably not going to. I would just rather put money in the spread. I do have it projected at 49.4. Yeah, 49.4. So I see a little bit of value there. And I think it's all, to do with Mahomes, the fact that he's playing in this game. Okay. I have a couple of other bets that I also like, and we haven't talked at all about the 49ers and Eagles game, which, yeah, that could also be a really great game here. Fitz, I believe that you're on a side here. Talk to me about what you were seeing in the 49ers and Eagles game.
Yeah. So I'm very curious as to what things are going to look like when the 49ers have the ball in this game, and whether they are, we talked about Brock Purdy before last week and how when he faced Dallas, that was going to be the first time all season that he was facing a defense in the top 12 in DVOA against the pass. Dallas came into that game ranked number 3, and Purdy played mistake-free football, but also, didn't make a lot of big plays. It was just sort of the offense functioned well enough. They didn't even get to 20 points, but it was a reasonable performance, but like not really one that made you think Brock Purdy is the next coming by any means. Now he's going up against an even better defense, one that ranks number 1 in DVOA against the pass, one that had 70 sacks during the regular season, which was the most by any team since the 1984 Chicago Bears, the monsters of the Midway, with 72 sacks that year. So this is a fearsome pass rush. Like, they had 4 dudes get to double digits in sacks, like Hassan Reddick, Javon Hargreave, Josh Sweat, and Brandon Graham. So like, they can come at you from all angles. But then again, like, the Eagles defense is number 21 in DVOA against the run. And we saw them give up like 139 rushing yards to Dameon Pierce of the Texans at one point during the season. Can the 49ers, bully the Eagles in the running game and really take heat off Purdy? I don't know if they can, because Elijah Mitchell is going to be out for this game. Big injury for them with a groin injury. And we know that Christian McCaffrey is dealing with a calf issue. So, one of your top 2 running backs out, the other one possibly with his health slightly compromised. I think it's going to be really hard for the 49ers to move the ball through the air in this one. So that kind of skews the way I'm thinking about this one. I think there's a little bit of value with Philadelphia here. But I know you don't agree with me on that one, Freedman. So give me your perspective on this.
Yeah. So, well, first, a follow-up question here. So where do you exactly have this projected? Because so the number is 2.5. It's just been sitting there all week at 2.5. Are you betting the Eagles at 2.5?
I am. All week I've had the Eagles at 3. Like, I haven't changed my thought on that. I think the Eagles are 3 points better.
Okay.
At home.
So yeah, at home. Yeah. So I have this projected at 1.75. So I lean towards the 49ers at the number of 2.5, but like 1.75 to 2.5, that's not much of a difference. Like the difference from 2.5 to 3 is significant because it's the key number. So I could see betting it at 3, but I'm not betting it at 2.5. What I will say is that I would bet this at 3. And I talk about it on most shows, the BettingPros app, and setting the alerts. And so I set an alert for this number, 49ers plus 3, and it got there on Monday. And by the way, just the BettingPros app, perfect. You can sync up with sportsbooks. You can get free betting advice and picks. You can track different experts and your own bets. And of course, we've got those all important and highly useful alerts. We monitor all the major sportsbooks. So when one of them has a line move that hits a threshold you set, like San Francisco plus 3, you get an alert and then you can bet it, which is exactly what I did. San Francisco plus 3. It is sports betting streamlined. So I think the strategy is to wait for the plus 3 and bet it there. If it never gets there, fine. I still like the 49ers on the teaser. And so I actually now have 2 teasers on these 2 games. One of them bet early in the week, 49ers plus 8.5, Chiefs plus 8.5. Now I like 49ers plus 8.5, Bengals plus 7.5. And so, I'll talk quickly about the Kansas City, Cincinnati part of that teaser. All of those games that we've seen so far have finished within 1 score. They were all settled by a field goal. I think that's the most realistic margin of victory here, followed by 7, followed by 4. I think that ends up being a tight game. So, that's why I'm teasing the Chiefs and Bengals. But the 49ers here, in the regular season, the 49ers were number 1 in both defensive EPA and defensive DVOA. In the playoffs, they did very well defensively against the Seahawks and the Cowboys, holding the Cowboys to just 12 points. I think the 49ers defense is, if it's not the best in the league, it is, top 2, top 3. And quarterback Jalen Hurts for the Eagles, he's still limited with that shoulder injury. Like he's practicing, he's playing, but he's still limited with it. And so as good as the Eagles offense is, the 49ers, like that's one of the few defenses that I think could actually slow them down. And right tackle Lane Johnson, he's still dealing with the groin injury. Like he's playing, but he's not fully healthy. And I think that can mean he struggles against, Nick Bosa. I continue to be impressed by Brock Purdy. He's a 7th round, 3rd string rookie with only 8 games. So fine. Like I acknowledge there's a strong possibility of him underperforming because that's just what you would expect out of someone who checks those boxes. And he's got a tough matchup. Fitz, you mentioned it. The Eagles, number 1 in defensive pass DVOA in the regular season. They're getting slot cornerback Avonte Maddox back. So they are, about as healthy as they could be, minus Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But other than that, like they're healthy. So yeah, like I can see the case going against Brock Purdy. And if you look at value against the spread, NFL Elo still has quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is worth about 3 points more than Brock Purdy. But like it's a small sample sport that we're dealing with. We have only 8 games, but we still have 8 games. We have a half season's worth of data at this point to look at Brock Purdy and to be able to say within this offense, like he's a functional quarterback. And Kyle Shanahan has a history of making mediocre quarterbacks look, I mean, I wouldn't say great, but look good, or at least look passable. And Purdy, like he's been good in the regular season, 8.6 adjusted yards per attempt. In the playoffs, 10.3 adjusted yards per attempt, 546 yards passing, 3 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Now he's had some passes that should have been intercepted. He was lucky that they weren't. But like every quarterback has some passes like that. So Purdy on the whole has been a very good passer. Again, at times careless with the ball, but I've seen enough to feel comfortable projecting the 49ers offense with him in it. And the 49ers offense is good. On a neutral field, I have the 49ers and Eagles as almost even. In fact, I actually give the slight edge to the 49ers on a neutral field. Yes, of course, the game is in Philadelphia. The Eagles have an edge. You have the 49ers traveling across the country. So yeah, the Eagles should be slight favorites in this spot. But I don't know, man, the 49ers, I don't want to say they feel like a team of destiny or something, but like there is not a drop off from Garoppolo to Purdy based on anything that we've seen so far. And this is the spot for Kyle Shanahan, 29-19 against the spread for his career as an underdog, 30-21 against the spread on the road, 20-10 against the spread as a road underdog. Like that is the type of trend that I want to get behind. And so if the 49ers, if this number hits 3, I'm betting it. I already bet it, but if it hits 3, like I think it's very bettable. Again, you can set the alerts in the BettingPros app. If it doesn't hit 3, that's fine. I think you tease them at 8.5 and you pair that with the Bengals.
Yeah. I mean, I do have a lot of respect for the 49ers, by the way. I wish I could remember which game it was during their winning streak where I thought to myself, okay, don't let yourself get suckered into picking anyone else to come out of the NFC other than the 49ers, because that's the team. And, now I'm kind of suckered into picking someone else. But yeah, I mean, like, as I mentioned, I think this, the caliber of the defense Purdy is going to face is going to be a big, kind of a game changer. And like, I just don't think he's going to be able to consistently put together big drives in this game. But like on the other side of the ball too, I mean, if there is a team that's maybe equipped to stop the Eagles, it's this 49ers team with like the talent they have on the defensive front 7. The fact that they're largely a zone team, so they're going to be facing Jalen Hurts and maybe better able to mitigate his running since they've, got the play in front of them. They're not turned around in man and suddenly Hurts gets loose. So, yeah, and for that reason, I don't know how you feel about the total, Freedman, but I think there's maybe a little bit of value on under 46 here. Like I've got it at 45.5, and I had been kind of toying with the idea of moving that line, projected line even down a little bit, projected total, I should say. I I don't see either of these teams like consistently moving the ball all game long. I think it's going to be offensive on both sides is going to happen in fits and spurts, just because both of these defenses are so good. What do you think about the total?
Yeah, so there's a difference between my projection and what I would bet and where I think my projection should be for the total. Like my projection for the total is just kind of very based on numbers and what's happened previously. So my projection is for the over, but I'm definitely not betting it. And if I had to choose a side on this, I would bet the under. And like our official betting pros projections lean towards the under here. So I agree with you. I think this feels like a defense, like a tightly fought, run heavy, slower pace type of matchup. Like both of these teams do like to run the ball. I think that maybe the way to approach it would be that I could see taking the under on the first half and maybe the over on the second half, because like maybe the game loosens up a little bit in the second half and they start throwing the ball a little bit more. But if I had to take a position on this for the full game, I would be going under on the 46.5 that's in the market.
Yeah. And I mean, like there's no chance the Eagles just run all over the 49ers. That's not going to happen. The 49ers run defense is the best in the league. I mean, I think it was second in DVOA behind the Titans, but I don't think there's any question the 49ers had the best run defense. And no individual player has run for 70 yards against them all season. Yeah. And I think only one has run for 60 yards or more. So that's not going to happen. It's going to be Jalen Hurts. Like Hurts is going to have to make plays through the air to win this game. And, you know, if watching the Eagles in the playoffs last year, he was put to that test and he did not pass that test. He's got to pass that test this week. And I'm kind of betting on it that he will, but man, I mean, like it's no slam dunk that he will.
Yeah. All right. Let's play a little bit of a game here called like set the alerts or whatever. As I mentioned earlier, obviously the alerts function in the app. It's a real practical way to use it is to set thresholds that you would be willing to bet. So let's kind of do that now, like setting the threshold. So Fitz, you like the Eagles. What threshold would you need that line to be to bet on the 49ers? Would 3.5 be enough? 4.5? Like kind of where would you set that line where if for some reason the market moved in that direction and at least like everyone is healthy, like as you know, circumstances now, where would this line be where you would flip and say, all right, I should at this point be betting or people should be betting on the 49ers?
It wouldn't take all that much because, you know, I'm betting this game simply because it is one of two games available. And if this was part of a 16-game slate, Freedman, like this would probably be just like, it's close enough where I'm going to pass on this one. So I think it would be maybe 49ers +4. Okay. Convince me to draw, you know, 4 is I could easily see like a 24-20 type of game here. Yeah. You know, and it definitely beyond the key number of 3. So I think that would be my sweet spot.
Yeah. So I mentioned I have this projected at 1.75. So I like the 49ers right now. If this hit a pick 'em, I would bet the Eagles easily. I would bet the Eagles at a pick 'em because at that point it's like, okay, even teams, you're totally discounting the home field advantage that the Eagles have, which is not insignificant. So if this hit 0, I would be betting it. We're both on the Chiefs. For the Bengals, where is the line where you would at that point start betting on the Bengals?
Maybe Bengals +4.5.
Really? Okay. Yeah. For me, I would think 6. But you have them. Where do you have them projected right now? You have them at 3.
3. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I'm already past 3. I'm at 3.5. So like I need to get to like another threshold. Like there's more of a hurdle to clear for me to want to bet on the Bengals, given where I already have them projected.
Yeah, I might be too easy a sellout here on that one for at 4.5. Yeah, it should probably be more like 5.5. But
yeah. I mean, you know, 6 is a key number now. Yeah, if this hits 6, I would bet the Bengals. It's basically like if we had the same situation we had last week. You know, Bengals +6 against the Bills. I like the Bengals at that number. If this got to Bengals +6, I would like the Bengals again. Fitz, you mentioned the Super Bowl look ahead lines. I don't know if you have any opinion, because like you can start betting them now, so maybe someone would look at some of those lines and think, all right, well, there's some sort of edge to be had in some of these numbers. I don't know if you looked at them and thought, okay, well, I would kind of be interested in betting this with this one given matchup. Did anything stand out to you as particularly exploitable? By the way, so the numbers, if it's Cincy and Philly, the Eagles are favored by 1.5. If it's the Bengals and the 49ers favored by 1. If it's the Chiefs and the 49ers, the Chiefs favored by 1.5. If it's Chiefs Eagles, Chiefs favored by 1. Fitz, did any of those stand out to you when you were looking at them?
No, nothing really did, Freedman. And I did go through this little thought exercise, and I kind of also projected that, if someone gets into the Super Bowl, that there is maybe like, I don't know, a confidence bump. So if it's the Bengals, maybe you think right now the Bengals are the weakest of the 4 teams to get there. But like if they knock off the Chiefs after knocking off the Bills, like the market confidence is going to swell even more. And we've seen market confidence in the Bengals swell after that win against the Bills. So, and ultimately factoring that into, I do see all of these 4 potential matchups as being really close. Nothing stood out to me, depending based on what we see in the conference championships. Maybe there are going to be some weaknesses exploited. Maybe there are going to be some developments on the injury front that kind of swing our opinions one way or the other. But as of now, I did not see anything. What about you?
Yeah, I don't see a ton of value. I will say that in doing the projections, I saw that I'm a little bit higher on Cincy than the market probably is, and I'm higher on San Francisco. I'm high on San Francisco in general, probably because I'm higher on Brock Purdy than the market is. But I think specifically San Francisco against the Chiefs, that's where I see the most value. I have the Chiefs favored by only 0.5 in that matchup. I think it should be pretty close to a pick 'em. And so depending on, the look ahead line that you're seeing there, if it's 1.5, I could see a little bit of value on San Francisco at 1.5 plus 1.5. I would probably bet that. It's not a big edge though. Like we're at that point in the year where regardless of what the matchup is, we have an entire season and then an entire playoff stretch worth of data. These lines are going to be pretty sharp. Like I think the only way there's some value is if there's kind of some injury uncertainty, right? Something like that. But for the most part, I think these lines are pretty much where they should be. So I don't see a ton of value. I see a little bit of value in San Francisco, +1, +1.5 against the Chiefs. Fitz, any props pop up that you want to talk about? I know that we had a question from let me see here, Sam Young earlier. What anytime touchdowns do you guys like?
Yeah, so I responded to Sam. I sort of like Dallas Goedert at +175. I think that's a decent price on him, even though the 49ers have been fairly good at defending tight ends, but it seems like Hurts is sort of drawn to Goddard in the red zone at times. And I just think that's a pretty good price for him. And I kind of like Kadarius Toney at +255. And I think that maybe sort of correlates with the Mahomes injury. And I think Toney could be kind of a big part of the Chiefs game plan this week, as far as just wanting to get the ball out of Mahomes' hands quickly. And Toney is a guy who can, he's pretty shifty in the first couple steps off the line, get open and let him work his magic with the ball. So I could see him, breaking into the clear for a longer touchdown. And I think he score a touchdown his very first game as a Chief when he joined them. So at +255, I think there's good value. And then should I talk about a few of my favorite player props? I've got like 4. I've got 4. I'll run through them real quickly. So I talked about Brock Purdy and just my concerns about him handling that Philadelphia pass rush. Plus, the Eagles have a great secondary with Darius Slay and James Bradbury on the other side. Basically, Purdy in his starts for the 49ers has averaged 26.1 pass attempts per game. The Eagles are averaging a league low 5.5 yards per pass attempt against. So opponents averaging 5.5 yards per pass attempt. I mean, if you multiply 5.5 times 26.1, he falls well short of 219.5 yards. Like the Eagles have only given up 207 yards per game all season long, and they held Daniel Jones to 135 last week. So like the Brock Purdy under, sort of like the Joe Burrow under 279.5 passing yards. I just think that's a tall order with 3 starting offensive linemen missing. And, if I lose that bet, it's going to be because Steve Spagnuolo like blitzes like crazy. And, we're talking about, that 79-yard touchdown catch Jamar Chase had in the first quarter.
Yeah.
That's how I lose that bet. I like Miles Sanders under 61.5 rushing plus receiving yards. I think just the total on rushing was about 51.5. It goes up about 10 yards if you had receiving yardage, but Miles Sanders has averaged like 3.5 receiving yards a game over his last 10 and just doesn't really factor into the passing game very much at all. And, going up against that 49ers run defense, which we just talked about, Freedman, only allowing one guy all year to rush for 60 or more yards. So I think he stays under that one. And then one that, not only me, but a lot of the people behind the scenes at BettingPros are into Noah Gray over 12.5 receiving yards for the Chiefs. So the other Kansas City tight end has only fallen short of this number twice in his last 11 games. And in one of those games, he finished with 12 yards. So he finished just half a yard short. And he's played more than half of the Chiefs' offensive snaps in each of their last 9 games, played 37 snaps last week. The Chiefs wide receivers kind of stink, if we're being quite honest. And, so I think it's not only Travis Kelce, but I think Noah Gray is going to factor in this week as well. And he might play even more than 37 snaps if the Chiefs go with 2 tight ends a little more often, so they can maybe keep a tight end in, presumably not Travis Kelce, to help block the Bengals pass rush, to keep Mahomes clean. So I think we're going to see a lot of Gray this week, and 12.5 yards is a pretty low bar to clear.
I like that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Noah Gray, and I would say to take this into the fantasy realm, Noah Gray is someone I've kind of been paying attention to in Dynasty. Like he feels like a decent Dynasty stash, like attached with a good quarterback, actually a decent player on his own. Travis Kelce is getting older, not to say that Kelce's, going to slow down at any time, but like you kind of never know when these, elite players drop off. And like Noah Gray is someone who's totally overlooked. Like no one wants him at all. Like he's basically free. So in the dynasty streets, he's someone who is kind of intriguing to me as a long-term stash. But for this week, I do have him projected to the over. I think you're right. I could see him. I mean, he's playing over 50% of the snaps regularly anyway. That could bump up a little bit more to help keep Mahomes a little more upright against the pass rush. So I do like that angle. And I'm also with you on the Joe Burrow under. I have it at what did you say the number was, like 279.5, something like that?
Yeah, and this was a couple days ago. I admittedly, I think this was as of Thursday afternoon, so I would have to recheck what the number is now, but 279.5 last night.
Yeah, I have it at 269.4, so I would be with you there on the Joe Burrow under. All right, to do a recap here, Fitz and I are both on the Chiefs at -1.5. Fitz, you like the Eagles at 2.5. I would like the 49ers if this number gets to 3. If not, very much like teasing them up to 8.5 and pairing that with the Bengals teased up to +7.5. Fitz, weekend plans. Do you have anything?
Oh, man. Unfortunately, a lot of driving around in the snow this afternoon. I have many household errands to run, just, groceries, household fixer-upper stuff. Yeah, it's not going to be a pleasant afternoon. So I'm really looking forward to my football tomorrow, Freedman. It's my reward for surviving a tough Saturday. What about you? I heard you might be onboarding a new member of the family.
Yeah. So our dog died about a month ago, and Eden found a dog that she wants us to adopt. So we're fostering him for a few days. So that's basically my weekend, but fostering to see kind of how it works, how he fits in. But yeah, when not working on fantasy rankings for 2023 or updating dynasty rankings, I'm trying to trick this dog into liking me. So we will see how that goes. I hope everyone has a great weekend. That's going to do it for the conference championship Betting Pros live stream. If you like the show, do us a solid, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck, and see all of you next episode.